Welcome back to Talking About Stitching with me. I'm Karen and I'm the Stitching Owl, and today, yes, you can see that indeed my owl has been put in place so that each of my videos you will see my finish from 2024. I have to say, when we picked up the picture, I wanted to look at it. Even though this was a Christmas present for my husband, we wanted to check it before we left Michael's. And the first thing we both did was a breath in, because it really is lovely. And it looks like there's no glass on it, but there is museum glass to protect it. I am so pleased that there is zero glare. Absolutely wonderful. If this is your first time visiting me, welcome. I really appreciate you pressing the play button and wanting to check me out. I hope you'll find something that you like and that you might consider pressing the subscribe button. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much. I consider myself very fortunate. I had the privilege of doing Flossmas videos throughout December, and the messages that you gave me were so supportive and full of friendship and love. The sense of community was your gift to me, and I thank you for that. It is something that fills my heart for sure. Now, I admit that I'm trying to make sure that I don't miss telling you things, so I'm going to be popping on my glasses and checking out my notes to ensure that afterwards I don't go, oh drat. As does happen to some of us Flosstubers. For my Send a Smile program, I just wanted to let you know, excuse me, that while I was not sending things out in the mail due to the Canada Post strike, in December, just before Christmas, I did hand out ornaments and lollipops lollipop ornaments, that is, to the stitchers that I stitch with at Stitch Central here in London, Ontario. I'd say there was 10 or 12 that were given out that day, and smiles all round. So I did have the opportunity to do it in person. I do have several packages ready to go. I'm just noticing that we are still getting messages that Canada Post is still quite backlogged, and indeed, I have only received packages and letters that were mailed in November. So when I start seeing the December stuff arriving, I will start sending out some of my new Send a Smiles. I've already alerted Andrew, the runner stitcher, that I am going to share with him my tiny Modernist Advent banner calendar that I stitched throughout Flossmas. He so loved and gave such positive responses to my stitching on that guy that I thought, I have not marked on any of the pages and they are in pristine condition. So let's pass it forward and have a smile with Andrew. He has been a delight to get to know better throughout the past month. I am doing a last call for Canada Swaps 2. I have 32 participants at this point, and I will leave the sign-ups open until Friday. On Friday, I will spend time with my files and put people in an order that allows me to know who's going to be sending to who. And then on the weekend, next weekend, I will be sending the information out. Just a gentle reminder, if you're going to send in any information, that I do need to know your favorite color so that the person who's stitching for you will include that in their stitch. Now, on occasion, I'm getting the message of, I love all colors. That's fine. I had one, is rainbow a color? Oh, that was a good thing. And yes, I do think rainbow is a color. And I've had a few people who've said, oh, You know, 504 is my favorite shade of dusty green or something like that. As specific or as generalized as you want, but it helps us to know, because that is one of the things that we are doing. We encourage but are not insisting on the use of Canadian designers this time. Yesterday, on January the 4th, I did Canada Chats, and we had a gathering of 9 lovely stitchers that we had great fun together. Now, we did generalized chatting, but I also included a getting to know you game where I asked questions and then said, oh, for instance, how many WIPs do you have, or something like that, and you get 1 point for each WIP. Or how many fully finished items did you have? We get 5 points for each fully finished item, that type of thing. And then we collected numbers at the end of this and totaled things up. And I'm happy to announce that Karen Daniel, you are the top number with 222 points earned. So I have all of your information. You are here in town. So I will get in touch with you, and we will arrange for you to receive an Erin Elizabeth design pattern. This time I sent out links the night before, and it almost worked perfectly. I had one that actually was on the list clearly that I sent it out, but she did not receive it. So it was perfect, because I got an email saying, I got the link from my friend, but I'm letting you know I didn't get the link. This is exactly what I want you to do. So our next Canada Chats is February 1st at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. And I will alert you via email if you would like. So I'll send that out to everybody that was included this time, and I encourage other people to join in. If on the day before you do not get a link, I want you to email me, and then 15 minutes before 2 o'clock, I will resend the link to anybody who did not get it originally. I'm not sure why Google Meets drops the occasional invite, but it does seem to happen. But delightfully, we had our full 2 hours together, and all of the feedback was that it was great fun. Okay, now let's get into the stitching. So today truly is a parade of my WIPs, because I'm incorporating everything that I'm bringing forward and continuing into 2025 today. I will start with one fully finished item. It is Cat Tapestry Sampler by the Tiny Modernist. Now this piece was the first larger piece stitched by my daughter. She started a little over a year ago with her stitching and is really doing well with it. Now, I framed it in a previously loved frame. I'll insert a picture here so that you can see it. I've already given it to my daughter. For finished items, I only have one here as well. And Lisa of Four City Stitching already knows that I'm saying, I'm sorry, you were right, I was wrong. Lisa and I started on December the 21st, the hashtag Tier Tray Sal. And we are doing Erin Elizabeth Designs tier trays, but we're encouraging everybody to stitch tier trays and send in pictures. So I already have a couple of pictures. I'm going to see if I get any more, and next time, the video for 2 weeks from today, I will share more pictures. The tier tray that I completed today, well, not today, I actually completed it in 2024. Here we go. is the Woodland Critters tier tray. So we can see that there's a squirrel, a fox, an owl, a rabbit, a skunk, a raccoon, and a hedgehog. Now, that means that this fits the prompt, animals with a coat. I'm assuming Laura was meaning that it could be like a coat that we make to put on our pets or a fur coat. So many of these had fur coats. One of them had the owl had a feathered coat, and of course the hedgehog might have had a more pointier coat, but they all were animals with coats. So the prompt that I'm talking about is the I Spy prompts that Laura supplies to us. She posts them on her Facebook, Stitching by the Shore, but she also puts it on her community tab, so you do not need to be in that form of media in order to stitch along. She's happy to have everybody just see how many that they might be interested in stitching this month. I love that she just is encouraging us to participate to the amount we're comfortable with and have time for. So that is my only finish since the last time I saw you. Now we're getting into works in progress. So I did say to Lisa that I thought I'd be stitching my tier tray well into January, but then I discovered that the tier trays are actually quite small. Now, this is small in part because it's a smallish pattern, but it's also small because I'm stitching it on 40 count verdal with one strand of DMC. Now, I have a wonderful stitching buddy by the name of Jody. Hi there. And she's so generous. She had made some purchases at Stitch It Central in December when they had 25 to 30% off of the charts in the store. She purchased 2 Erin Elizabeth tiers. This is the Valentine tier, and this is the St. Patrick's Day tier. She's loaned them to me to stitch before she even opens them to stitch. I mean, that is such a generous gesture. Thank you so much. So I wanted to definitely keep the tier tray sal going, and I have begun. This is a small beginning, but is over 100 stitches of the Valentine tier tray. So you can see that I have the mailbox and 2 hearts in place. I haven't yet stitched the word mail. Now I am using 1 strand of DMC here. So that means that when I go to stitch the word mail on here, I am going to be using 50 weight Aurifil thread, so it's quite thin and doesn't end up being too thick while I'm putting things into something that's already fairly solid on this particular stitch. So again, thank you, Jody, and I am looking forward to stitching multiple tiers. She also shared with me the O Canada tier, and I know that I've also got a dog tier, so I'm going to be able to keep that hashtag going for quite a while this year. And so my works in progress, I'm now going to keep talking about while I chat with you about Burringo. Now, Burr, having multiple R's, is just saying that it's a bingo board in the middle of a cold January. This is a bingo board that has been created with 25 prompts by Robin and Carolyn of the magazine monthly Cross Stitch Challenge. It's a Facebook group, which is lots of fun. So each day, Carolyn is posting which number is to be stitched and reminding us what the prompt for that number is. So number 1 was, day 1 was number 14, and the prompt was a WIP or new project that reminds you of a family picnic. So for that, I have done irises by Owl Forest Embroidery. This is being stitched on a 32 count Lugana with 2 strands of DMC thread. I am using the called for, but I am brightening up the white to B5200 just so that these flowers show. When I come in close, you can see it quite clearly. In person, you can see them clearly as well. So the reason that this fits a family picnic is that when I was young, my father, and mother, we would go for drives on many Sunday afternoons after church. And one of their favorite things to do would be to visit botanical gardens in different cities. They really loved roses and irises, so we would go and have a picnic amongst beautiful, beautiful color, and we would walk along the rows of flowers that included roses and irises. So for this guy, I have 2,323 stitches in, and it is at 52% complete. This particular piece does not have a lot of backstitch to add at the end. I will double check the original posting to make sure I'm not missing anything just because I'm using Pattern Keeper, but I believe that I'm doing fine as I am, and I will continue to work on this. I will say that this is particularly pretty in person. When I have people come to visit me, they find it quite eye-catching, even if it didn't draw comments when they watched my video. And where am I putting things? That's always a challenge. When we do a WIP parade, is like, oh, where are we going to put things? Because I'd rather not drop to the floor today. Day 2 was number 22 in Bringo, and it was your choice of a new start or WIP. And of course, Karen being Karen, I started something new. So let me see, where is it? Now, this is a Country Cottage Needleworks design called Lovebirds, and these packages are quite small. Oh, it actually does come through okay. So this is a new to me designer, so it does fit the prompt new designer from Laura's I Spy prompts. I realize that many people have been stitching this for years. It has just happened I've been collecting the patterns and hadn't got to stitching them yet. So let's see how far I got. So I always want to have something a little bit recognizable when I show you a new start. And I did get the Lovebirds and a little heart in as my start. So I believe this is about 200 stitches. It's an approximate because this is not in Pattern Keeper. So this is being stitched as 1/1 on 40 count Verdal. That is a hand dyed by Rolanda fabric. I am loving her Verdal. It is so lovely to stitch on, and it's easy to see. And I know it doesn't look like it will be, but it is. It's an easy stitch. So I'm looking forward to finishing my Lovebirds. Now, this is multiple. So I said that it was a prompt for Bringo, a prompt for Laura, but I am also stitching a 25 ornaments in 2025 with Amy of Renewing Stitches, and this is my first ornament for that. Now, I am so lucky because I've been direct messaged through Instagram by the rocking chair stitcher. I just love Sarah. And delightfully, she lives in Ontario. We live relatively close. She's just the other side of the city that my mother lives in, but it's winter and it's been very busy with my mother care. So at some point, I know we'll meet in person and I'll be able to see your delightful little boy as well. So this also will work for the hashtag Ornaments Sal that I am doing with Allison of the Mrs. AZ Family Zoo. Now, I will also be stitching some It's So Emma patterns for this particular Sal. I just haven't got started on those quite yet, Allison, and you can see that we're going to be Valentine oriented for at least a month now. So more to show the next time we're together. And I hope you'll visit Allison on her Flosstube channel to see how her stitching is going for her ornaments as well. Day 3 of Baringo, it said, a WIP or new start that reminds you of growth. And now I have to dig to the bottom of my pile without losing a whole bunch of things. Yeah, I almost lost a whole bunch of things. So I am using By the Shore of Stitches So Beautiful because there is so many trees that definitely grow. There are birds that of course grow, and in the bottom of the picture there will be puppies that grow into dogs. Now, in my By the Shore, I have 26,009 stitches, which means I am now at 15.76%. And I am using also the prompt from Laura that I hope to finish it this year. And I know you're thinking, whoa, Karen, you're only at 15%. Yeah, I know, but I still hope to finish it by the end of the year. And here is where we are. So the last time I showed this, I think I was at 13%, and I had just gotten to where we have these little spots that there is no grass or trees. I thought they were paths, but I just think it's the shadows that made it so that nothing would grow there. And I'm thinking that while this looks like greenery, that perhaps that is going to end up being the mirroring in the water of the foliage around. But isn't that gorgeous? So I'm just going to go in close. So I admit that my number 906 has been put into use so often that I'm going to have to break into my second skein. I do buy new skeins when I start a full coverage so that I don't have an issue where I pulled something from an older dye lot. So I am doing one strand on 20 count Aida or Aida cloth, which means that I'm using a fair amount of that green in this picture, but I'm okay with that. Because in the owl you saw behind my last full coverage, I was using a lot of blue and a lot of black. On this one, it actually always surprises me when black comes up because it's not a black square, it's a teardrop. And so I'm like, oh, it's a 310. And when we look at this, you don't see very much black. And I'm okay with that. For day 4, it was number 6, and it was your favorite designer. Now, I've got to be honest. I've got to be honest that I got down to this video without bringing down my stitch. So I'm going to have to insert a picture here of Quackstack by Plum Street Samplers. I am doing a hashtag Plum Stack Sal with Lisa of Forest City Stitching. And we started this at the end of December, in that period of time where, hi there, hon, where Lisa gives herself permission to have as many starts as she wants. And she had some lovely starts, so I hope you're going to check her out. So I will put a picture of how far I've gotten. You'll see that I do have one full duck done and a bunch of foliage. I am ready to start the baby duck and go down into the water as well as the other duck. Now, these Plum Street pieces are so much fun. I do find that they are much better on something like an even weave or a linen, because there are facets of 1/1. The baby animal, I have already done the polar pack as well as tortoise tower. The baby animals are always 1/1. And in this case, the duck's bill also has 1/1. So not impossible on Aida cloth, but easier on even weave and linen. Day 5 is number 10 on our Bringo board, and that is a project that has flowers in it, and I am choosing to use the Aviary by Jan Hicks Designs. Now I'm going to tell you that I have not had a moment to stitch on it today. So this is really the WIP as you saw it the last time we were together, but next time you will see that it is farther along. And there is what I think might be hollyhocks on the side, and I will be putting some over here. And then of course there are birds because it's an aviary. Now you'll notice that yet again, I am using 40 count Verdal, and while it is not the same piece of Verdal as I was using for my tier trays, it is still hand dyed by Rolanda because I picked up 5 different Verdals from her. And that is how far we have gotten with Burr Ringo. So I will continue to stitch my way through this. I haven't posted as many pictures as I would like, but I will make sure that I will let Carolyn of Cesic Stitches and Robin know that I am participating by putting up my pictures when I like to actually, they say 1 hour or 100 stitches, and I tend to do 200 to 500 stitches. Now, on New Year's Eve, there is an activity called 12 by 12 that has been supported by a number of different Flosstubers. I believe Jessie Marie Does Stuff supports this, and maybe Pam and Steph of Just Keep Stitching. Also do postings on Instagram. I personally go to the Zoom with Sandy of Stitching with Sandy, who has a lovely Flosstube. She is a wonderful stitcher who is a teacher in the school system, and so she is marvelously talented and stitches regularly. And she also does model stitching that is often shown in the Just Cross Stitch magazines. So for sure, she has excellent product. Now, she is very dedicated. Twice a month, she runs Sunday afternoon Zooms. Oh, I guess it's morning if you're in California. It's afternoon for me here in Eastern Time Zone. And we stitch for 3 or 4 hours together. And then on New Year's Eve, she actually commits to 15 hours so that we can start at noon hour. So noon hour in Ontario, which is Eastern Time Zone, is actually 9 a.m. for her in California. So she starts at 9 a.m. and then she goes all the way through, and she celebrates a brand new year at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. So she is certainly so committed to a sense of community and just so much fun to work with and stitch with. And she does run smalls exchanges that are absolutely lovely to participate in if you would like to do something like that. So what was I doing? Well, earlier in the year, Samantha the Huga Stitcher completed this particular pattern, finishing all 12. This is called the Patchwork Calendar by Owl Forest Embroidery. And after I saw her video, I reached out to her and said, can I purchase that pattern from you if you're done with it? And her response was, wow, I was going to find someone to just give it to, so I'm just going to send it to you. And I was like, oh, are you sure? And she said, yes. So she indeed mailed this to me. When I do 12 by 12, I set myself up the day before. So on December 30th, I sat down and I put one strand into all 12 of these smalls so that when I was on the Zoom with Sandy, I had no problem knowing which way was up and where to start my stitching. I find that if I wait until the day of and in the moment of the Zoom to do my actual start of the first stitch, I only get 10 stitches in, and sometimes I have to frog them because I haven't put them in correctly. So I like to do them in the quiet of my front room the day before so that I don't have the frogging. Now the day of the 12 by 12, I was feeling a little bit weathery with a migraine, so I was only there for about 4 hours. So not all of my smalls got a lot of stitching. Today I am just going to show you one of them. This is July. And what you'll notice is that I am stitching with a variegated thread. So what I've chosen to do is to choose a different variegated thread for each month. They are all going to be stitched on this same this is a 25 count even weave 1/1. And I believe that this even weave is called Stormy Cloud. So it's just got a bit of texturing in gray so that whatever I do here will show up as long as it isn't too light of a gray. So yesterday in my Canada chats, I was putting in this bordering element, and I had achieved the rest of this, not all on New Year's Eve, because I had continued to put in usually 2 strands a day since then. The stitches are quite tiny, but I have to say I had not stitched on 25 count the rest of 2024, and I'd forgotten how much fun it is. So I know why Sarah of Sarah's Stitchy Spot loves to stitch on 25. And I'm just writing down the extra Flosstubers I mentioned so that I put them in the description box below. So thank you to Samantha, and you will be seeing these develop probably over the next 6 months. I know it only took 2 months last year for me to finish the Prairie Schoolers, but they had fewer stitches than these, and so it'll take me a little bit longer. By the way, just so you know, this color is called Denim Blue, and it's a Valdani cotton. So I knew that I was going to be doing this, and I just started collecting different variegated flosses. They are not all going to be the same make. I'm finding Valdani cotton easy to work with, and would certainly look to purchase more of it in the future. Now, New Year's Day, I had a new start, new year. And I mentioned before that Kenzie of Mud Puppy Stitchery had generously gifted me the pattern to the Barred Owl. And this is Barred Owl Blueberries. So in here, this did go into Pattern Keeper. Now this happens to be one where it slipped in twice. So I'm assuming that even though it says there's 28,000 stitches, that it's really only 14,000 stitches. And unusually, I started in the bottom left, and I am on a 32 count even weave by pole stitches, but the label had fallen off, so I don't know what it's called. And here I have 800 stitches in. Now I think these little boxes at the bottom are telling us different things that the owls eat. I've got a frog to put in here, and there's a little bit of yellow that I haven't quite put in on there yet. The white does show up better in person than it does here. But I am enjoying this, Kenzie, and thank you so much. This is a wonderful border. It is effective, but it is also easy enough to look at and know whether you've got it right. For instance, I can look at this and say, I obviously missed a stitch right here that I'm going to have to grab the next time I was in. But you can actually look at it and know whether you've got it right, because it's just one that the eye can see the errors. Although I didn't notice that missed stitch until just now when I held it up to the camera. And so I think that that is 5.6% done. And this works for the hashtag Stitch Animals Birthday Sal of Beth the Steadfast Stitcher. Now my next WIP is Aurora by Pigeon Coop Designs. It's found in this Cross Stitch in the Forest book by Max Pigeon. And this particular book has so many lovely patterns in it that many of us are saying we're going to stitch at least 10. I want to try and see if I can stitch all of them except for the one with the insects. I might do one of the insects as a small, I'm just not sure who I'd give it to, but there might be somebody somewhere. I wonder if Lisa's son Jack likes insects. Maybe she can tell me in the comments below. So the Aurora looks like this. So you can see, I think he did it on black Aida cloth. I am using deep navy blue Aida cloth. This is an 18 count. I am using 2 strands to get as much saturation as I can. It is a tight stitch, I will say, but I am enjoying getting this in. The last time I was here, I had not finished this light colored swoosh, and then I have started and almost finished the next deep purple swoosh. One of the things that I find about these patterns by Max is that they often don't have more than 10 or 12 colors, and some of them only have 5 colors. But how he uses them is very, very effective. So one of the things that I had happen is, again, on Instagram, Mary of Mary's Stitching Corner reached out and said, oh, I've got that book and I think there's 10 or 15 that I want to do. So can I stitch those with you? And I was like, of course, Mary, and thank you for reaching out to me. So I'm going to be checking to see how her stitching is going with the Max Pigeon Designs, And I thank you, Mary, for reaching out. It's so lovely that we have these friendships developing. Now for that one, I am going to use the Opposites prompt by Laura, Stitching by the Shore. And here's how I explain this. Hi, Kim. Here we go. Yeah, that's Kim, Contented Needleworker Kim. So I think this fulfills opposites because we are in the dark of night, but talking about light and dancing color. So, dark and light. And in December, I started stitching on a pattern that I purchased at the Jingle Ball. I really wanted to make sure that I dived in and got some patterns instantly done. I've already completed one, and this is my second one that was a purchase from there, because I don't want to get to the end of the year and go, oh, I didn't do any, because it's amazing how many people have said that's what happened. So this is a Joy Ornament by Satsuma Street. It is getting close to a finish. When done, I will hop onto the Noel sampler that I purchased there, because I'll be stitching it with Karen, who has already started it. She did a Christmas Day start, and I thought I would start Christmas Day, and then I went, oh, I don't think I want to have 2 Satsuma going. I want to really get this done first, so I put in more stitches. So you can see the word joy developing. This is a 32 count opalescent Lugana, hand dyed by Rolanda again. Yes, I got a few of the sparklies from Rolanda. And these are inspired by the numbers by Satsuma Street, but they are from a bag of random floss that was given to me at a stitching day at Stitch It Central. I find that when we're handed the gift of random flosses, sometimes they're not the same floss that we are used to, and sometimes they aren't even identified because they might not have their identifying number or brand on them. But we can still do things that are smalls, like ornaments, and use that and remember who it was that gave them to us. So I'm really having fun with that, and I'm looking forward to working towards a finish on that. And my next WIP is going to be the Quaker Flag by Vivian Powers of Vivsters on Etsy, and at this point I am doing the Canadian flag. It's not the only flag I purchased, but I don't want to have more than one going at a time because these are quite big. I know that Deanne of Stitching on the Rock is actually counting this as a full coverage because they are intense stitches. And this is where I am now. So this is what I was adding this time. I have a little bit of gray to add to this corner. I'm not quite finished. I'm just going to hold it up. But it is a very pretty Quaker. And while I'm doing that, I'm ripping out this one where I accidentally have one spot that's over one, and it was making the Quaker not work. So while there are many, many patterns that we can use and fudge a bit, because it doesn't matter if all of the green in a tree is exactly right or every blade of grass is in the right place. But on a Quaker, it is really noticeable if things are not equal. And this is, of course, the hashtag 2024 Quaker Flag Sal. I have finished 21,839 stitches. I'm at 45.14%. I'm hoping to get back to doing a Quaker per week, but taking out that Quaker is actually quite tricky. I am using one strand of 12 weight sulky thread on a 36 count opalescent linen. So that means it's very tight, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't damage the actual linen while I am taking things out. So I'm not a happy frogger. No, not at all. I am planning, just as an insert, to do the next ATC swap. That's an artist trading card swap, which is a 2.5 by 3.5 small. And this is a swap that is run by Laura Stitching by the Shore. And the prompt here is where you live. So I am debating how I approach this, because there are many different angles that we can do. But I believe that we need to have these tour somewhere around the beginning of February, so I need to get started stitching. Now, just continuing with my WIPs, I also have the WIP of the Snow Queen. So Snow Queen is in here. Yes, another owl. Okay, so it might look like this is 100% white, but it's not. There are a sense of depth and movement in the wings because there's 4 or 5 colors of very light blue. I'm not happy with how this is working out for me. I love this color of fabric, and when I hold it back here, you're thinking, what's the problem? Okay, so when I hold it up close, you actually see that the stitches are not going in very neatly at all. It just isn't working for me. So I'm thinking that this would be better as a 1/2. Oh no, I am stitching 1/2. I don't know. Something's not right. I do want to stitch this owl, but this is not the correct fabric for this particular project. So it's going to be a restart. So more to come in the future. I do have another pigeon coop design going, so I'm okay with only having one at a time there and setting this aside while I figure out what direction I'm going. Another of my WIPs is the FairAisle Friends by Tiny Modernist. And I started Panda Bear, largely because my daughter loves pandas. And on this I am using a 32 count opalescent hand dyed by Rolanda again. And I'm using one strand of sulky weight, and I started this with a variegated thread. And I was going to tell you that I was going to restart this. But when I hold it up to the camera, it actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it did. I'm going to continue to think on this. Isn't this fabric lovely? I'm not sure whether I'll continue with it as is or whether I'll restart. I have no problem continuing to stitch these critters outside of the Christmas season. To me, they can be winter, especially the panda and the polar bear. These two have Santa hats on, so they're a little bit more Christmassy, but even then, stitching Christmas 12 months a year is fine with me. And again, that can go with the ornament salve that I'm doing with Allison of Mrs. AZ Family Zoo. those are the WIPs that I could find. I do have a big bucket. It is possible there's something in there that I did not catch. But for now, those are what's going forward. And that puts me around 15 WIPs that I'm working on, which is where my comfort zone is. Now, if we talk 2024 wrap up, I supported the Fun for 50 Sal of Sally, Flossie Sews and Grows, and Sarah, Sew Me Sarah. They were both turning 50 this year and decided they were going to do 50 starts in the year that they turned 50, and they both accomplished that goal. And they had a great time doing it. They were following prompts from many of us that sent them in early ahead of their special year. And they've actually both got a number of finishes and even fully finishes out of these prompts. So really, it was great fun stitching with them. And they both have wrap-up videos that are truly full of eye candy and might just be a little bit enabling. Now in 2024, I actually started 70. Yes, 70. Now out of that 70, I finished about, I'd say I finished 55 of them, but I only fully finished 37 of them. So this means there are over 30 projects still to do the fully finish. And I've got about 10 projects of my daughter to fully finish. And I've got about 15 finishes of projects that predate my being a Flosstuber. So I really need to get to fully finishing more often, don't I? And I'm going to say, Jody, on Thursday we said maybe we would have a day. I'm wondering whether we need a day every month for fully finishing so that both you and I can keep on top of this. Now, anytime I FFO something, I show it on Instagram with the hashtag 2024 FFO challenge. Last year, the year before, it was 2023 FFO challenge. This is a hashtag that was established by the Two Tall Stitchers. Wonderful channel, mother and daughter. And I'm hoping that they have a 2025 hashtag because I think it's a great thing to have go. So I was successful in my starting of a minimum of 50. I don't have a specific goal of how many starts to do in 2025. All I know is I will keep track, and a year from now, we'll revisit this topic. Now, in 2024, I said that I was going to do 24 different ornament designers, and this was accomplished. So this is my planner that is by Lori Sykes of My Crazy Life. And I've got to make sure I put that down too. My list of Flosstubers mentioned is usually quite long below, but I do hope that you find it helpful. So in here, I got exactly 24 different. I got more than 24 ornaments, but I got 24 different. So Rosewood Manor, I did at least 20 finished Quakers. Now, when I talk about my 70 starts, I only counted Rosewood Quaker once because it was one pattern that I just happened to do a whole bunch of ornaments out of. Kathleen Burlew for the Peacock Christmas. Waxing Moon Designs, I did a bunch of different ornaments. Nancy Green, I did Ho Ho Home. Chrissy Callahan, Kitty's First Christmas Ornament. Prairie Schooler, I did all of the prairie birds, which there was 12. And again, I only counted that as one last year. Bunny and Flower by Stitchissimo. Joy Ornament, I did multiple times by Misty Purcell. Most of these have been given away, that's why I'm not showing them. Peter's Day Out by Lindy Stitches. Marching to Easter by Twin Peaks Primitive, Halloween Silhouette by Doreen Jones, Four Seasons Globe by Tiny Modernist, Quirky Quakers, I did multiple, by Darling and Whimsy. I did Summer Bouquet by Darlene Dion, but I also did more than one by Darlene Dion. Cookie Cutter Ornaments by It's So Emma, and I did multiple of those. Wood Flower Ornament by the Canadian Stitchery. Swooping Swallows by Pigeon Coop Designs. Black Cat with Moon by Faithwork Designs. Pumpkin Triangle by Puntini Puntini. Stitching Through the Night by Lisa Musoni. Peaceful Path by Three Tiny Owls. Love Always Wins by Catkin and Lily. Joy Ornament by Satsuma Street. And Cozy Christmas Cabin by Modern Folk Embroidery. Now, some of those may not have been intended to be ornaments in the original pattern, but I stitched them on something like a 20 or a 25 count to make them small enough to work as ornaments. And there was also times that I would just take a portion of a larger pattern and make it into an ornament. Okay, we are to the shout-outs. So I have two today. The Chinook Crafter. Michelle joined us yesterday on the Canada Chats, and of course, she was as lovely as I expected her to be. She had a hand injury later in 2024, I think it was in the fall, and that somewhat interrupted her stitching, so there wasn't quite as many of the floss tubes as she had hoped for, but the good news is she is back. She came back in December, and her latest video, she is showing quite a variety of stitches that she is sharing with everyone. I am amazed that a mother of two such young children can get as much stitching done as she does. I hope you'll give her a quick look. So Chinook Crafter. And the other shout out is Sheldon in Stitches. And it was quite funny that Karen texted me this morning, I found another Canadian Flosstuber, and I was like, I found him too. So we have created, well, I'm not going to say we. Karen is a stitcher that I got to know last year, and I stitched with her online a number of times, and she's just fun. And she decided she was actually going to make a list of Canadian Flosstubers, and she sent it to me. So I alphabetized it, and then I added a few more that I knew about. If any of you are interested in receiving this list, please put it in the comments section below, or just, it'd probably be easier if you emailed me actually, because then I would know your email to send it to you. So I realize that many of my friends are not in Canada, but for those of you who are, this list had some people on it that I was unaware of, and if I'm unaware of them, possibly you are too. Sheldon in Stitches is a very new designer, not designer, Flosstuber. Video number 1 went up about 4 days ago. Sheldon is from Winnipeg, where I'm sure he's kind of cold and in a snowy weather. He clearly loves his big projects, but he has also started the Advent Animals of Brooks books. And I found his voice very soothing when watching him in the middle of the night. So I hope you'll give him a chance. Now, my moment for music to close is another melody that is not super new, but I'm doing this intentionally. I have to be cautious about copyright and things like that when I'm doing my music, because YouTube has even alerted me one time that I had a copyright infringement on something where the composer has been dead since 1748, and the title that they quoted wasn't even the title that I played. So I'm having to be cautious. So some of the newer pieces that would be lovely for me to play for you won't be played for copyright reasons unless I get permission from the composer, and I will reach out to a few of them. So this today is The Skater's Waltz by Emile Charles, a Waldteufel, I'm not sure. I will spell it out here. This happens to be a piece that I just thoroughly enjoy playing, and I hope that a few of you recognize the melody. And here we are. We have reached the end of another Flosstube. I'm so glad that you came to see me today. I realize that your time is precious and that there are many, many Flosstubes available for you. We actually can't watch them all. I'm finding it hard, and I watch a lot of Flosstube. So thank you for watching, for being my friend. I will be reaching out to people who have emailed me to see if they would like to do online stitching with me. No, you do not have to be Canadian. I will be doing just generalized online stitching as well. And I hope to put a face to many of the names that I'm seeing each time in the comments. Now, just before I truly say goodbye, the last question that I had for my friends on yesterday's Canada Chats was, how many of your stitches do you have out as decorations, either on the wall or stand-ups or however you have it? How many do you have out in your home or apartment right now? Because I know that some people actually had to leave their seat to actually start to count. And it was lovely to discover that so many were on show. And I knew that many of the seasonal were going to be rotated soon as Christmas gave way to winter and Valentines. So if you leave a comment, can you do that? Can you let me know how many you have out? And now as I say goodbye, I say I hope that you had needle, floss, and fabric in hand, and that as you made something beautiful, you made yourself happy. Bye-bye for now. I'll see you in 2 weeks.